Hi, I'm Barry Hensel. Welcome to the Reading Line Central Division HO scale layout set in 1970 in southeastern Pennsylvania. The layout encompasses the entire basement of my house, and we got a 2-track main line that goes around with a third little branch line. Lots of industries for operation and switching, and we do regular operating sessions roughly once a month. We hope you'll visit us in person during the convention, and or if you attended the op session, we hope you had fun. Hi again, and welcome to the Reading Line Central Division. The layout starts right here as you come down the basement. As you can see, the track actually comes through the stairway. That's so that when you come down the stairs into the basement, you're actually walking into the middle of the layout, so there's no duck unders. Here at the bottom of the stairs we have Sinking Spring, which was a western suburb of Reading. As the main line comes around, we head right into the main city of Reading and the main yard. Operating session, we have a yard master that will make up trains and send them out according to the train orders we're working with that night. We've got a roundhouse, fueling racks, typical Reading row houses, which Reading was famous for. Very colorful section of town with some row houses. And then just some background buildings. As we get toward the east end of the yard, on the backdrop you will see the Reading Pagoda on the top of Mount Penn. That was painted by Norm Logan for me, along with some of the backdrop. The pagoda is real. There is really a pagoda overlooking Reading. It was built back in the late 1800s. It was supposed to be a hotel. That never really happened. The city of Reading owns it now, and it's a community center. And then in the corner we have the Reading station that was in downtown. There was actually 2 stations in Reading. Franklin Street Station, which was downtown, and Outer Station, which was actually, well, that was on the outskirts of Reading, where their main yard was at. The Reading Brewery is an old Helgen kit that was built to be a backdrop instead of more as a full industry building. Alright, at the end of Reading Yard is Beltline Junction, which was an interchange point between several branch lines and a runaround to get around Reading without going through it. As we pan to the left, across from Reading Yard is Schuylkill Haven, which did have a large coal facility there that the Reading served. So thus I've got a coal mine there. As we come west on the layout, we then run into Birdsboro. Birdsboro had a large aggregate facility that I've semi-modeled there, Brown's Feeds. Also had a station and freight house. So it was a good point on the Reading. As we continue west, then we run into Mount Carmel, company houses for the coal miners, and the big coal facility at Mount Carmel. Now, none of these cities are in their actual order as per the Reading track plan, which gives us some flexibility in when we do operations. You're not in one town and the train's in the next town, so to speak. Come around the big curve from Mount Carmel. And this is where we have a peninsula in the middle of the basement. And the main line splits. Main line 1 continues through the wall. Main line 2 comes around the peninsula through Center Mills, which was a very, very small town. And then we get into the big industrial area of Bethlehem, which was obviously known for Bethlehem steel mills, and a lot of industry there. What I've modeled here is not so much a full steel mill, but more of a smelter. It brings in scrap, melts it down to create new steel. The blast furnace is actually N-scale. That way it fits the overall theme of the industry. It's not a full blast furnace, but I highlighted the N-scale with HO doors and walkways, so it still looks good. Alright, across the tracks is the Bethlehem station, and this is where Bethlehem and Kutztown kind of intermix a little bit. We're now in the Kutztown proper, which again had a station and a freight house. The station still has to be built. The Kutztown Reading station was a pretty unique structure, so we're going to scratch build that in the near future. As we pan over, now you're getting into Tamagua, which again was a very big coal area in Pennsylvania. And the Reading station in Tamagua, which I've modeled using DPM wall sections and is a fair representation of the real station, was recently used as part of the postage stamp collection. Tamagua was a fairly good sized town, so I've modeled a little bit of the downtown area, so to speak, along with again a coal facility. Behind downtown is East Mahanoy Junction, which was again a joining of 2 branch lines and a famous tunnel, one of 6 tunnels on the Reading system. We've got a typical country bridge and some Amish in the area holding up traffic. As we come around to the other side of the aisle from Tamagua, we have Shamokin Junction, which again, we've got an interlocking there, a double crossover with an interlocking tower. The main line goes from Shamokin Junction, goes into a tunnel, and on top we have Stevens, Pennsylvania. Again, another small community that had a station, and we've got a couple of little industries, a scrapyard, a little manufacturing company, and a siding over to the hill with a coal dump where local coal mines would truck their coal to be then carried off by the railroad. Got a typical Pennsylvania farm scene. And the track on the hill is that third kind of branch line where the 2 main lines are on the lower level, and that third track goes up to Stevens and then goes through the wall and reconnects with the main lines outside of Reading. As again we go east, we run into the Susquehanna River. And the Reading had a huge arch bridge across the Susquehanna. I believe, if I remember correct, there were 59 arches in the bridge. Obviously, we don't have room for the full-scale version, so this is my modified version. partially built by friend Bill Dieter, and then I did some more detailing on it. From the Susquehanna River, we cross into Mannheim with another aggregate facility and lumber company. The names on the industries are real names that the Reading served. A bit, they were taken from a 1954 manual, but I'm stretching it a little, and they're still in business in 1970. From Mannheim, we run into another large city, Pottstown, which had another large station that the Reading serves. Commuter lines between Reading and Philadelphia is where Pottstown was. Now I had to get the station on the right side of the tracks, and I didn't want to extend the layout, so as you can see, the station is in section, and that's just the way the modeling world works. You got a knife that runs through the world, and the knife ran right through the station, so we've got a nice interior detail there. Downtown Pottstown, and then two more industries on the east end of Pottstown. Grocery warehouse and a manufacturing. Okay, east of Pottstown, the main line crosses the Schuylkill River, and actually the railroad crossed the Schuylkill River many, many times. The Schuylkill is quite a squiggly river that runs all through southeastern Pennsylvania. But in this particular location, this is just outside of Phoenixville, where the railroad crossed the Schuylkill River and went into a tunnel as modeled. The unique thing about this scene is I modeled it without realizing it was a real scene. After doing some research, I had to redo the bridge to make it an arch bridge to match the prototype, and so now I've got a prototype scene on the railroad. Okay. The only difference between the model version and the real version is the real version narrows down to one track through the tunnel instead of a two-track main line. I didn't want that bottleneck on the layout, so I just left it a two-track main line. Norfolk Southern still uses that main line, bridge, and tunnel today. Okay. Of course, as you can see, we've got some weather coming in. But I think it'll clear by the end of the day. This part of the layout is somewhat interesting because it was never supposed to be completed. This is kind of in the furnace room of the basement. This was this was and still is our two staging yards, and kind of the east and west ends of the layout geographically. Shippensburg Yard was one of the westernmost parts of the Reading, and Camden Yard was one of the easternmost parts of the Reading. But we decided to finish it, and now it's looking as you see. We've got another industry here off of the yard. Camden Industries does plastics work. And as you can see, the main line comes around. Here's Camden Yard. Again, more of a staging yard than a working yard. We've got storage tracks above it, just for literally extra storage for during op sessions in case we need to move cars off the layout. Did some photo backdrop buildings just to add a little more character to the area. And as you can see, the main line goes around the furnace, and then we get to one of the newer parts of the layout. So from Camden Yard, we come around to Hershey, PA. And the Hershey Chocolate Factory was a very big industry that the Reading served. And many carloads in and out, coal for the power plant, cocoa bean, most people believe, probably think that's a grain elevator, but it's a cocoa bean elevator. So they had a passenger station there too, right down the track, almost in the parking lot of the chocolate factory. Unfortunately, it's gone, but in my case, again, we're going to stretch history a little, and we still have the station in Hershey. All of the buildings in Hershey are scratch built. The cocoa bean elevator was out of PVC pipe. The actual factory was just styrene. And then the power plant, which still exists, even though it doesn't produce power. It's iconic, 2 stacks with the word Hershey on it, can be seen for quite some distance. That was again made out of DPM wall sections. The 2 stacks are 3D printed. I couldn't find anybody that made any in any kind of resemblance of what's really there. So we got on the computer, did some design work, and came up with the stacks for Hershey. And then just down the track from Hershey, because we've got the room, let's add another town. Here's Middletown with 2 industries and a team track. As the main line comes through the wall from Hershey, we run into Port Richmond, which was just outside of Philadelphia. Port Richmond was huge for the Reading Railroad and many other railroads, and this is where they did a lot of shipping to all parts of the world. Just outside of Port Richmond in the Philadelphia area was Tasty Cake Factory. Tasty Cake in southeast Pennsylvania is like Hostess to us here in the Michigan area. Same type of confections that they made, and are still in business today. The Reading had a very large coal facility for shipping coal all over the world, even though this is not a correct representation of the type of facility. This is what's available modeling. It's the Walters coal dock, or ore dock, that I've turned into a coal dock. We've modeled a Reading tug. The Shamokin was a Walters kit that we did extensive modifications to give it that Reading touch. The Reading had several piers for transferring all kinds of goods on and off ship, and that's represented here in the corner of Port Richmond by the Walters big warehouse. Again, that's one kit, but I made it double size because it's kind of a backdrop building, so I used the backside walls for the front side, and that made it double size. When the main line leaves Port Richmond and comes through the wall, we come into the closet that's underneath the stairway. About 2 years ago, I decided, well, I needed more industries to switch. Where could I add them? How about the closet? This became known as the closet expansion. I've got a clinic on how this was built, and I've presented an article in our region Hotbox about this. So we ended up with 3 industries with very little extra work as far as bench work, a couple of turnouts and some track. Kit bashed a couple of buildings, again using DPM wall sections. I just love DPM wall sections for kit bashing buildings. And again, these are companies that the Reading actually served. in the Danville area. This has become Danville, PA. And with this, the main line goes through the stairway and back to Sinking Spring, and we've done a lap around the layout. Just outside of the closet and the stairway is our dispatch center. This is where our dispatcher sits when we have operating sessions. It's a simple matter of moving magnets around the track plan to know where trains are at, so long as the trains let us know where they're at. But it really fulfills a good need. It's nice here out in the open and does the job. It's a fun job to dispatch the Reading lines. We can normally get 4 to 5 trains running at a time without too much problem. We do a simple operation system of exchanging car for car, boxcar for boxcar, flat car for flat car at various industries. I have probably 25 trains that we can select from. Each operating session is set up independently of each other. I can shuffle the order of trains in any fashion I want to fit the need of the night. We try not to run trains 2 operating sessions in a row, so with the number of trains I have, we usually get them almost every other session or so. Most operating sessions we can get about 10 or 11 trains run in a night. Part of the layout room is what we call the crew lounge, and I think it adds to the overall enjoyment of the layout during op sessions and tours. We've got places for people to sit, obviously some pictures of the Reading and other things to give the layout room some atmosphere. So I hope you've enjoyed this tour of the Reading Line Central Division. Again, hope to see you in person over the weekend or in the near future. Thanks for visiting.